There we go. Okay, now we're moving. All right, so let's talk about what our responsibilities are to first generation students. So our responsibility to first gen students is to support the success of first generation students, and that is the responsibility of all campus faculty, staff, and administrators. So the key word in this particular sentence, besides success, is support. So what does that support look like, and how do we support our first generation students? So faculty and staff should, before starting out with the support, they should know who their first gen students are and know their needs and strengths. They should consider new models and approaches for engaging first generation students. And finally, they should normalize and model self-advocacy and help seeking behavior among those students. So we're going to jump into those three aspects of what support looks like for first generation students. So before you can really know how to support students, you got to understand the first generation identity. So let's talk about understanding the first generation identity and what that looks like. So first, we're going to define what first generation means here at Virginia Tech. What is the definition of a first generation student? Second, we're going to talk about understanding how to serve students better by looking at things from their perspective. Next, we'll talk about considering the intersectionality of students and how different our first gen students are. They hold more identities than just being first generation. And finally, shifting to an asset-based lens from a deficit lens. So at Virginia Tech, this is the definition that we came up with last year. So to let you all know a little bit, so first generation student support has been in place since August of 2019. One of the first things that we wanted to do was to establish a definition here that could be used across the campus for first generation. So a student is identified as first generation college student at Virginia Tech if neither parent or guardian has earned a bachelor's degree at a four-year college or university. We are looking at next year expanding that definition to include our international population because there has been a lot of questions from parents and students alike about their international status and how that plays into that definition. So looking at some of the perspectives of our students and understanding what it means for our students when they attend campuses, especially large campuses such as Virginia Tech, and some of their perspectives as a first gen student when they arrive, and some of the things that's in their head and in their hearts when they arrive to campus. Number one, you get a lot of students saying they owe it to their families to finish because they're the first ones to attend college. So as that seeks to be in their head and their minds and their hearts, sometimes that put a lot of pressure on students to think that. Also, some students have no family support. You know, you see a lot of students when they're moving in on campus on move-in day, and they got their whole family, their extended family, everyone's helping taking stuff into their college rooms, they're decorating, they, you know, buying, you know, nice carpets and rugs and buying, you know, refrigerators and all this glamorous stuff, and you know, just going all out and decorating their room. Where there's some students that don't get that type of support. Some students are dropped off, and you know, they might have to buy some of their things later because they can't afford it. They may not have a refrigerator yet, or they really had to save a lot to get that refrigerator. And they just don't get that, you know, that big move-in day, or during the time that they're here, their parents may not have enough money to send them care packages or really know what it means when they are in finals or taking their exams and knowing the stress that they're going through. They don't understand that because they haven't been through that. So they're not really able to offer that type of support to them. Next, again, we're talking about some are low income, not all, but some are low income. So there's that comparison of themselves to the more wealthy students who have the means to, study abroad or go on trips during spring break and things of that nature. And they're having to work a job or two to do well or to survive. And so they're comparing themselves in their minds to other students. And finally, you have a lot of students who miss home. They miss home a whole lot. Um, and when they miss home, they're either trying to go home a lot and not really engaging in campus and student life, or they are thinking so much about home and what's going on at home that they're not able to focus on the work here. So the intersectionality, or we like to call First Gen Plus. So first generation students, very diverse group of students. We're not just first generation. Myself, I'm first generation and minority. So, and I came from a low income background when I was growing up and in undergrad myself. So there are different pluses to the first gen identity. It can be a minority, it can be first gen and LGBTQ, it could be first gen and low income. And I'm gonna shout out to some of my folks in athletics who talked about students being student athletes, so along with being first generation. Prime example, one of your most famous first generation athletes that came out of this school was Michael Vick. Michael Vick was a first gen athlete. And just like any other first gen student, being an athlete, that does not change things for you just because you're an athlete. Michael Vick talked about how much he missed home, and he even had one of his friends come and live with him here on campus because he wanted a piece of home here with him at Virginia Tech. So when we are thinking about our students and being first generation and plus additional identities, it helps us to learn how to support them as far as programming, and who to partner with in order to bring them that programming based on these additional identities. Also, assumptions can lead to misconceptions and gaps in campus programming if we're not aware of additional identities that students hold and along with being first generation. So we have to think about all these identities when we are preparing programming for them. And finally, a broad representation of first gen identity can be a very powerful catalyst for greater institutional change. Because when we think about these different identities, the institution needs to really cater to that and really look at how diversified this group of students is. And next, shifting from a deficit to an asset-based lens. So when we think about first generation students, we always think about the challenges that they have. But we also need to start understanding their assets and what they can bring to the academy. So we have to start shifting from focusing on their shortcomings and to start celebrating and enhancing the identity. So one of the things that I'm really big on when students get here is really trying to help them understand the identity, to embrace the identity and celebrate it. That's why we have the I'm First Gen t-shirts and the bracelets. So I want them, as soon as they get into Virginia Tech, to say, hey, I'm First Gen, this is a great identity to have, and it's okay. And it also helps shift the institutional culture, letting the institution and everyone here know that we are here. These students are here and that they belong here and they should be included. So helping to contribute to a feeling of belonging and inclusion is very important to our students. And finally, identifying faculty staff who are first gen. So last year, we identified there are about 256 faculty staff here at Virginia Tech that are first generation. And we want to make sure that our students know that, so they know that they could go to these members here of the campus to talk. So we had some stickers made that says, I'm first gen, come talk to me. That they can put on their doors, that they put on their computers. They also have the t-shirts as well. Because when students know that there are other first generation faculty staff here on campus that are just like them, then they feel more comfortable in going to talk to them. So let's talk about the hidden curriculum. And I'm not sure if anyone's ever really heard of the hidden curriculum here in higher education, but the hidden curriculum refers to the unspoken or implicit values, the behaviors, procedures, and norms that exist in higher ed. So for faculty, and this is for faculty, how do we teach students the hidden curriculum? How do we break the hidden curriculum and help students integrate into that and learn about the hidden curriculum? So first things first, we have to make sure that our students know how things are to be done in the classroom. If you have an example, faculty members, if you have an example or a way that you like to see work done, then make sure that your students are aware of what constitutes good work in your classroom. So be open in teaching them that. Be open and having an open door policy, and not letting any questions that they have be considered a dumb question. We have to make them feel included. So the curriculum should be one of inclusion versus exclusion. So again, we want to incorporate diverse voices and perspectives. So students should see themselves in your curriculum. So we need to make sure that they're engaging in opportunities in your curriculum that helps them to see themselves and helps the curriculum be diverse. Also allow them to connect their lives and what they're studying. So if there's opportunity to engage them in service learning in the community, the local community, and some of the work that you're doing in the classroom, then it will be a good idea to do that. Also teach your students institutional values and academic success strategies and use of institutional resources. Don't have your students chasing around looking for the institutional resources. It's very important that they know what's available to them. If they're taking an accounting class, and they need to know, where some good tutors are, or if anyone in the department is tutoring or can assist them. We shouldn't send our students on a goose chase looking for their institutional resources. We need to have them available and waiting for them. So if they need a tutor, have a list of tutors already ready. We want to make sure that our students are using and normalizing trying to find and connect to the institutional resources that are available here on campus, and not making it be a chase. So talking about the importance of the classroom. So the classroom is the primary location for first generation students and interacting with faculty and their peers. Some of the things that we want to focus on is being mindful of the costs of course materials, and that's for all students, is being mindful of the course materials and the cost, just to make sure that it is affordable. We want to foster a collaboration versus competition. So engaging your students and having students that are, say, second generation that have more cultural capital, having them share their resources with the other students, the first gen students in the classroom, creating study groups and having students engage with one another in these study groups is very important. So we're not trying to get them to compete with one another, we're trying to get them to collaborate with one another and share their resources. You want to provide a supportive and caring environment for first generation students as well. So again, talking about that open door policy and how important that is to know that they can come talk to you, or just not ignoring them and say, hey, go talk to the TA. I don't have time, or I'm too busy. Making sure that, again, you are available to talk to the students and address any concerns that they may have. And allow for faculty, student, and student interaction versus integrating and isolating. Again, we talked about that earlier as far as giving students the opportunity in the classroom to create spaces to engage with one another. Also, interaction with faculty is a significant part of first generation student development. So again, if you have the opportunity, for example, like maybe research opportunities, or there's opportunities in professional development that would be good for a student, then make sure that you offer that or talk about that to them, or, you know, take them aside and say, hey, I think you would be great for this opportunity. I know about this opportunity. I know about this internship, and making sure that you are contributing to their success there and introducing them. Student interaction with faculty outside the classroom. And this is one of the things that we're trying to do with VT FirstGen Allies and the grant that we just received, and making sure that we give students and faculty and staff the opportunity to engage outside of the classroom. And this is just a list of things that promotes and engaging outside the classroom: student persistence, educational aspirations, degree completion. Because once students realize that faculty and staff care about students, more specifically faculty cares about students outside the classroom, then they feel like, again, there's that inclusion and that belonging piece, making them feel like they belong on this campus. So again, we talked about this earlier, encouraging interdependent behaviors and trying to get students to form study groups, make sure they get the tutoring that they need and know where tutoring is available for them, versus students not knowing what is available to them. Again, we want them to seek out these types of services and know that it's okay, and that they won't be considered dumb in any way if they are seeking out help. Include ways for all students to contribute to class discussion. Again, making sure that all students are a part of the conversation, and not just a subset of your favorite students, but engaging all of your students in conversation. If they're being quiet in that corner, then encourage them to come and talk and get into that conversation. And finally, reviewing your syllabus and including supportive language in your descriptions and policies, i.e., my door is always open. I have open door policy. These are my office hours. Let me tell you what office hours are. Reviewing your syllabus. Some students may have not seen a syllabus yet. We can't assume that all students have seen what a syllabus is or know what a syllabus is, but breaking that down. And if they have a question as to what a syllabus is, then not making them feel incompetent for asking that question. So some effective educational practices. So faculty must use effective educational practices that engages students and support student learning. You want to provide timely, targeted feedback and communication. So if you know a student is not doing well, communicate with them early about these issues and things that you see that you feel like they should know, that they can improve upon, and do that early enough so they can turn things around. And when you are communicating to students, again, think about how you deliver this message to them, because delivery is everything. And we don't want students to feel like, well, this professor is mean, I'm not going to come back and talk to them because they made me feel incompetent. We want them to feel like, okay, you have my best interest at heart. When I have questions, I feel that I can come back to you and talk. Build in high impact activities and assignments, journaling, again, service learning, if there's opportunity to do that and connect it with community work. That's a great way to engage students into some different type of work and assignments. And again, requiring that collaborative learning, so there'll be a social process. So again, students will be able to get a chance to talk to their peers and learn more about their peers and learn more from their peers than what they may currently know. So my staff folks, so the importance of staff, even though you all are not in the classroom, you are a great piece of service and providing service to students. So when we as staff think about how we provide service, we number one want to think about how do we provide opportunities to our students. And again, we go back to what I was just talking about earlier with if you know of opportunities that students would be great at, which is, what could be career professional development, internships, study abroad, things that students may not know about. Are we telling students about this? Are we sharing that? This is why I have a listserv of my first generation students, because anything that comes across my desk that I think my students should know about or should be a part of is going onto that listserv. It's going out to my students. So they can make the decision whether or not it's something they want to be included in, but I will be the one that sends that information to them to make sure they get it so they can have a seat at the table. We want to create a seat at the table for our first generation students. Provide a mentoring relationship with students beyond the classroom that helps them feel connected to campus. From my own experience, and this is someone I had as a mentor. And again, mentors just don't have to be peer mentors. You can connect to faculty and staff on campus who you feel comfortable with and, build mentoring relationships with. And a person for me, when I was an undergraduate, I actually worked for this woman. And, of course, well, at the time, she looks like me, of course. She's an African-American woman. And at the time, I really say that a lot of the things that I've done in my past and in my future, and where I am right now, is contributed to this woman and all the things that she did for me and creating that relationship to come tell me things that I should be focused on and things that I should not be focused on, and being very blunt about the advice that she gave me and taking me with her, because she became my mentor. As I trusted her and the feedback that she gave me. And she started taking me with her to events on campus to introduce me and teaching me how to network. So if you have opportunities like this to really connect with students and teach them things like networking, because networking is so important, and teaching them how to go to events. And, she taught me, which knife and fork to use and place settings and all this stuff like that. These are things that I did not know. And she even taught me how to dress. So again, just building these type of relationships are so important. Using hiring practices to ensure diversity in hiring and address first generation student needs. Making sure that we're just more diverse in hiring our faculty and staff, and making sure that, again, our faculty and staff sometimes look like us, and having students see us in themselves. So making sure that, again, this hiring process is diverse. So some practices for orientation and advisement. Most important, we got to recognize the influence that parents and family have on student behaviors and choices. So we need to make sure that we're doing things to connect with family. So I know with orientation, we do have a lot of opportunities to connect with parents and family. We want to make sure that in our programming, we include the opportunities to speak to parents and family. We also have the podcast that also speaks to parents and families. And also, I don't object to reaching out to a parent or family member if there's something going on with a student that, we may need to discuss, if it's okay with the student, or getting the families more involved, or the parents more involved, as far as, hey, your student has some exams coming up. Please make sure, you're supporting them during that time. Give them a call more, maybe want to send them a care package, things of that nature. So again, informing family and parents about some things that maybe the students are considering, but might need that extra push from the family to get engaged in. Normalizing the process of college transition academically, intellectually, culturally, socially, emotionally. So again, we have to talk about the transition with students and how important that is and what that looks like. And we should do that early on the front end when we are looking at students coming into the institution. We want to, again, focus on these areas when we start to integrate our students into the institution. Hold one-on-one conversations with students. So advisors, I know that we're doing those things. So making sure that when we are holding those one-on-one conferences with those students, making sure that we're being intrusive with the advising and getting in there and finding out what's going on with our students, and having them be intentional and we be intentional about finding out what is going on and how we can help and assist. Discuss career development and choices in their discipline. Again, if we know about those opportunities for students to find out about career choices and things of that nature, making sure that they are part of that conversation and making sure that they know about the opportunities that are available. Connecting the student and family with current first generation students. So I would say shout out to admissions for some of the great work that they're doing with doing this type of work on the front end when they are recruiting and students are interested in attending Virginia Tech. We just had a first generation campus connection day where we connected them with students that are currently here. So there's the opportunities for them to ask questions about campus and about transition and about how things are on campus, and being able to learn from students that are already here that are doing well. And then when they get into the institution, then providing them with mentoring from their peers. So again, they'll find ways to connect with the campus and engage in the culture. And finally, we want to publicize our services for first generation students. Again, making sure that if you have things or you know of things that first generation students can benefit from, make sure that you publicize those services. And if you feel so inclined to share with me, I will be more than happy to send that out to my listserv so I can make sure that the students are well of it. Again, we want to make sure that our students are at the table. So this is my sources, and this is our social media. So I'm done with my presentation, and I'll be more than happy to take some questions at this time. Thank you.
So one of the first questions we got was a lot of this stuff, and Megan, let me know if I'm not paraphrasing this right, but a lot of the stuff that we talked about in your presentation was a lot of one-on-one sort of attention and needs. How do you translate that to some of these big classes with 250 plus students?
Wow. And I totally understand that, because even when I was an undergrad, I was, 1 in 250 as well. But what I think that the answer for that would be is for students to know about office hours. If the faculty member is offering office hours, then make sure that as a faculty member, we say that these are my office hours. You can come and talk to me at this date and time every week if you have questions, because even though they're going to be in a big space with these, large classrooms like this, we still want to make sure that we give them the opportunity to get that one-on-one. And I know sometimes the classes have TAs as well. So if the faculty member is not available or have office hours, then making sure that they connect with the TA.
Okay. And then one of the other questions we got is, how do you reach out to first generation students without kind of making them feel singled out and selected because they are first generation? How do you provide support to them without making them feel singled out?
I think it depends on the situation and why you're reaching out to them. If it's a situation, if it's something that you observe, I wouldn't necessarily say, well, hey, I know you're first gen, so this is why I'm reaching out to you. But if you observe something and they happen to be first generation, then, it can be a different approach, because, you're reaching out to them just like you would a student that's not first generation, but you observe something that you want to discuss with them.
And Emily, I don't know if you want to add more to that or whether that was good enough.
That was great. Excuse me. I just know that in my classrooms, first of all, I'm typically not aware over the years at all. But in one class, we were having presentations, and one of the topics, they voted on these, but one of the topics was first gen students. And it was out of that experience that there were 4 students in my classroom that were first gen. And I was like, wow, because they volunteered it. I thought that was so cool,
Yes.
but they felt embarrassed saying it.
Wow.
I felt their embarrassment.
And you know, that's typical of some students too, that they do feel embarrassed. And that's why I'm trying to change that as soon as they get here.
Right. But the t-shirts, the stickers, they won't wear them. I mean,
yeah,
from what I've seen, which of course is not everyone,
right.
because it's embarrassing to advertise because of the stigma, I think, which is what you're trying to change, which is beautiful.
Thank you.
And Rachel, you have a question in the chat, and I'm not sure I understand it completely. So could you go ahead and ask that?
Yeah, I can try. My internet can be glitchy, so I apologize. So it's a really big question. It was hard to put it in the chat. So I was just wondering, you know, as an advisor, I would love to help support a student that might be, you know, identifying as first gen, but I might not have the resources to create like a package, but I'm happy to write a note of encouragement or anything of that structure. So I was wondering if there's any type of program, or if you guys are talking about that, you know, I could volunteer to do that. I get assigned a student for a semester, and so I send them encouraging words or whatever it might be. I would love to be, I know other advisors might be interested in that as well.
Absolutely. And so we're launching the VT First Gen Allies program next fall, where we are having an informal mentoring program that's going to be connecting folks like yourself, faculty, staff, with a first generation student, and mentoring them. So giving them the opportunity to connect. So yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, I'll look for that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to be added to the listserv, because I currently have a listserv of the allies already in place. So if you want to be added to that, then please let me know. Shoot me an email.
Okay, I will.
Charmaine, is there any way to know that a student is first generation unless you look in Navigate and they've got that tag?
That's the only way I can think of without asking them.
Okay.
Is Navigate.
Okay.
I ask because I'm an instructor, so I teach a lot of students. And if I'm helping a student, the time to me talking with them usually has to be pretty quick, whereas it'll take a delay for me to go into EAB and then learn more about them. And I have almost 600 students I'm working with this semester, so it's not like I can look it up ahead of time, but.
Wow.
Does VT's definition of first gen students differ from definitions that other universities use?
I would say no.
Okay.
I'd say a lot of institutions use that, but again, there's that conversation about the international piece that the NASPA Center for Student Success, First Generation Student Success, is starting to talk about. So I think that among campuses that will change, including.
Okay. And we had a comment, I was just going to ask that, Emily. We had a comment earlier, and then Emily just asked it again. Are students still considered first gen if they've had siblings that have attended college?
Yeah, they are. It's only based on the parents.
Okay. And then how can non-faculty employees support these students? This person is a grad coordinator for reference.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, just some of the things that I was talking about as far as the importance of staff. So you all not being in the classroom, but, you know, opportunities to mentor, engage, connect students with opportunities. Yeah, there's so many ways that you can do that.
That's all I'm seeing in the chat for right now. We'll give it a minute to see if anything else pops up.
Charmaine, can you talk a little bit about what you're doing with first generation students at the university, and maybe like the upcoming LLC for next year, and how to refer students to apply to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a fabulous LLC steering committee. I saw some of you on here. But yeah, I have a group of LLC steering committee members who has worked with me to launch a FirstGen LLC. It's called Generation One. The application is currently open for current students, and that closes on Friday. So if you know any students that are first generation that you think would benefit from living in a community where you know, there are other first generation students and getting that support, please send them our way. Also, we have what's called Hokies First Peer Mentoring Program, where we have 10 peer mentors and 80 mentees right now. And that program has been going very, very well as far as connecting incoming first generation students with mentors. And so I have requirements for my mentor. So the certain GPA requirement they have and the, you know, their engagement in campus plays a key role in whether or not they're hired as a mentor. Because I wanted them to be able to teach students, and because they have successfully integrated into our institution. So I just want to make sure that they are able to communicate that to students. And we also have a first generation student support group in collaboration with Cook Counseling. So giving students a safe space to talk about their experiences here on campus with other first gen students, and, you know, them being able to talk about ways to cope and things that they can do to help one another in that group space, and also having that kind of, you know, directed and managed by the folks at Cook. Counseling has been it's been going very well as well. We have the first generation recognition ceremony, which unfortunately was canceled earlier this year, but that's a recognition ceremony for our graduating first gen students. We had 425 people registered earlier this year for the recognition ceremony, where there's the ceremony where the students get the cord, and there's also a reception. And we also invite their parents and family to celebrate. We're looking at doing a first generation college institute that was supposed to launch this summer as well, but got canceled. That is for 10th grade students in high school that identifies first generation, because for me, I think the earlier the better, as far as learning about college and applications and what that transition is going to look like. So want to get them early.
Yeah. Charmaine, are there any plans for the Student Success Center to do workshops for first gen students to kind of learn that hidden curriculum?
I haven't talked to them about learning about the hidden curriculum, but we have actually, they have conducted some workshops for us. They actually just did one last night on test prep and finals, preparing for finals. That was one of our first gen college celebration week events. So, and yes, we have a person on our LLC committee from the center as well. So making sure that these workshops are going to be incorporated into the LLC. So if anyone wants to talk about, I don't know if folks from here or anybody from here is on the Student Success, from the Student Success Center. So if anyone else wants to talk about workshops that they're interested in bringing into the LLC, please let me know, or anything you want to see for spring that you may want students to, workshops that you may want students to participate in, let me know. Very open.
Does the first gen program include students who come from community colleges, or even just students who are not necessarily first year students?
Yep, we do have first gen transfers. We have a lot of transfers, as a matter of fact. And actually one of my mentors is a transfer from a community college, and she's doing well.
And then the Moss Arts Center is inviting a prominent first gen author this spring that I'm sure they will give us more information about. So
yeah, we were supposed to be collaborating in that, but we're not able to now. But yeah, they are bringing Tara Westover over.
Oh, excellent. Tara Westover,
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
The book Educated.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Karen Watson says, can we get a list of these specific resources that are first gen focused? Is there any way you could provide something that we could distribute to the people on this call?
Sure, I have a flyer.
Okay.
with all our services. Yeah.
Excellent. And let's see. What are some important challenges and/or concerns for first generation graduate students, and how can faculty and staff support them?
Ooh, that's a good question, because I actually just met with the Roanoke Graduate Student Association, and they had about maybe 5 or 6 first gen students on that panel, which was amazing. And I mean, they're going through some of the maybe similar experiences, but I think what I've noticed with them most is learning how to navigate the academy. You know, from a graduate perspective, learning how to navigate the academy and how to apply for grants, and you know, how to present at conferences, getting money to be able to present at conferences. And then they also talked about how there were not enough faculty of color in their programs, or anyone that, you know, or advisors of color that they can, you know, talk to or communicate with or work with. So those are some of the things that I heard from the graduate students that are first gen. Yeah.
Okay. And then what's the best way to reach out to first gen students for programs and opportunities?
Are you talking about as far as sharing opportunities that you have, or learning what we have?
Sharing opportunities that we have, and trying to promote. So I work in the Career Center with experiential learning programs, and knowing that that's a opportunity that a lot of first gen students probably aren't as familiar with. I mean, with everything that you said, and are probably less likely to participate in those kinds of opportunities. They don't understand how they work. They don't know that they have the money for them, or maybe they don't understand that they don't need money to participate, and they might get paid for some of these opportunities and that sort of thing. Yeah. So how do we reach out to them to, you know, to be inclusive and make sure they understand that these opportunities are for them, and we want to help them participate. And then also to let them know about the opportunities, just sort of promotion and advertising. So.
Absolutely. So I just dropped my email into the chat. So any opportunities that you have, please send them to me, and I can send them to my listserv, because I have about 3,000 students on my listserv.
Great. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Charmaine, this is Lisa Lee. I work in the research office, and I actually, it's great to see you. This has been such a useful and great presentation. It's very exciting to see this stuff starting to come to fruition here at Virginia Tech. I forget who it was that mentioned something about the students being embarrassed to wear a first gen t-shirt, or to wear, you know, have a sticker or whatever, which is completely understandable given, you know, the way in which a university campus feels at first. But I wonder if we couldn't take a page from the playbook of, you know, LGBT students, or other students, where generating some first gen pride comes from, you know, people who have been successful. All of the people on this call who are first gen, all the 200 plus, however many faculty and staff that you have on your list. I wonder if we can start to develop that for students, so they can see, wow, there's somebody who looks like me, not necessarily skin color, eye color, you know, place of country where they come from, or accent, but really somebody who looks like me as a first generation, and look how proud and successful they are. Man, there is some opportunity for me. And so, you know, I would be delighted to wear every single day a first gen t-shirt. I'm so proud of being a first generation college student, and having gone, you know, a long way, and you know, done a lot of cool stuff, and had a great career. And you know, and I think there are many of us on this call and elsewhere that would really try to start to develop some of that first gen pride. Maybe even something like a cord at graduation, you know, where you are a first gen graduate, you get a cord, and that's a special cord that, no one else gets unless they are first gen walking across the stage. So anyway, just, I mean, I'd be very interested in working on some of that with you all if there's any bandwidth for that, because I do think it really takes us as mentors and as people to whom first gen students look to not hide the fact that we are first generation. You know, we should be so proud of that, and I am, and I'm not at all hesitant to make that known. I think that would be a great way to really develop some pride around this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lisa. And I would love to, and I know we got, we are scheduled to talk.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would love to talk with you about that when we do talk, and let's come up with a plan on that. And as far as the cord, there actually is a cord for first gen graduates.
Oh, awesome. There
Yeah.
wasn't when I graduated, but good for us for doing that. Thanks.
Absolutely.